Hi everyone, welcome to Talk. My name is Christine. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Australia a couple of weeks ago from the 8th to the 10th of July. He was hosted by, of course, his Australian counterpart, Anthony Albanese. Now, the reasons for Modi's visit to Australia were, of course, to hold bilateral trade talks on trade, on defense, technology, mineral exports, Indo-Pacific security, and of course other matters. The bilateral talks were held in Melbourne, in Victoria. Now, another notable event that took place was a massive rally held in honor of Prime Minister Modi. Now, this was held at Melbourne's Marvel Stadium and was attended by well over 30,000 people, a majority of whom would have been Indian Australians. So, this recent event was, of course, to show up support for Modi and for his BJ party amongst the Indian diaspora living in Australia. Now, PM Modi was accompanied by PM Anthony Albanese, which is, and of course, Labour's Premier, which is Victoria's Labour Premier, Jacinta Allan. Now, it's important to note that Australian Indians are an impressive people. Many are very highly educated, hardworking, disciplined, family-centric, and are generally socially conservative people. Now, they are largely underrepresented in Australian crime statistics, which is a fantastic thing. Also, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, Indian Australians make up about 3.5% of the Australian population at around 970,000. Now, this number is on par with the British-born migrants, who are also at 3.5% of the Australian population. Now, both Modi and Albanese view the Australian Indian population as a faithful voting bloc, and indeed, they are reliable supporters of both leaders. Ironically, despite the show of unity between the two men, PM Modi and PM Albanese, couldn't be more different in their ideologies, values, and governing policies. So, on my part, I'm trying to understand how or why my Indian Australian brothers and sisters support a staunch nationalist, traditionalist, conservative leader in their original home country, but support a postmodern, non-traditionalist globalist like Anthony Albanese in their new home country. In other words, they are right-leaning in India, but they are left-leaning in Australia, largely left-leaning, and in other, of course, other Western countries. Now, Australian Indians are certainly not alone in their support of left-leaning Western governments. Most minorities, like myself, actually, most minorities and migrants who move to the West tend to vote left. I attribute this to the effectiveness of the predominantly left-wing messaging from the global mainstream media like CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC. Here in Australia, we have ABC and SBS, amongst others. In fact, Prime Minister Modi has more in common with coalition leader Angus Taylor, One Nation leader Pauline Hanson, or even US President Donald Trump than he does with PM Anthony Albanese. Now, let's just ask a question. What do Modi and Trump have in common? Trump and Modi are both wildly popular in their countries, having swept into power by appealing to the working class and the poor. That is, the forgotten people who often felt ignored by the political elites. So this is something similar to what Pauline Hanson is doing right now. And she's been doing since for the whole of her political career. She's speaking to the concerns and frustrations of everyday Australians who feel left out and ignored by political elites. Now, Albanese, on the other hand, in my opinion, barely made it across the finish line, garnering just over 35% of the vote, but forming government due to preferences flowing from the Greens. In other words, he's not popular by any stretch of the imagination, and neither is his party, Labour. Now, how are Trump and Modi and, of course, the Australian political right different from PM Albanese and the left? Now, here is just a handful of differences. There are many, many more. Trump, Modi, and the conservative right are nationalists. Now, this means that they look out for the host population first and prioritize the needs of the host population before the needs of newcomers or immigrants. Now, PM Albanese and the left are globalists, so they prioritize the needs of newcomers before the needs of the host population. then unfortunately the host population are then used to pay the bill by means of higher taxation. Trump, Modi, and the conservative right restrict immigration. Now, this is intended to protect the identity, the culture, and the values of the host population. On the other hand, PM Albanese and the left support open borders, which means mass migration is encouraged with the intention to dilute the strength, the identity, and the culture of the host population. PM Modi and Trump and the conservative right are also economic nationalists. This means they prioritize building strong manufacturing-based economies, that is, creating jobs for the middle class and the poor. They're also protectionists, which means they impose tariffs to protect local industries unless there is a trade agreement in place between the two countries. Now, on the other hand, PM Albanese and the left believe in economic globalism. Now, what that means is that corporations are allowed to export manufacturing jobs overseas for cheaper labor, that is to increase their profits. No penalties are imposed on these corporations. So what happens is this shrinks the job market, and there is over time, with the case of Australia, this has made the Australian economy dependent on export of minerals, on the services industries such as tourism, technology, and the social welfare industry. Now, Trump, Modi, and the conservative right aim for financial government efficiency. Now, that means less spending on what is deemed wasteful, saving taxpayer funds. We've seen that as the case with DOGE over in America. This reduces entitlements and reducing the size of government. They also want to lower taxes for businesses and for workers. This they reduce crippling regulation for businesses, which in turn reduces compliance costs for businesses. PM Albanese and the left, on the other hand, believe in high taxes to keep up with high government spending. That means they also advocate and make policies for more government or business regulation, which means increased compliance costs for businesses. Now, it is worthwhile noting that a significant number of Indian Australian people, the population, are actually business people running supermarkets, fuel stations, restaurants, and many other small to medium-sized, maybe even large businesses. These stand to benefit significantly when regulation and taxes are reduced. So what do Indian Australians, and by extension a majority of migrants, gain by supporting labor? So migrants forego all of the benefits that are offered by conservative-leaning governments. That is, the benefits mentioned above, that is lower taxes, more efficient and smaller government, a strong economy with more jobs, raising a family in a traditional conservative society. So they forego all those benefits, voting Labour, voting left, in order to gain one thing, that is favorable immigration policies, keeping doors wide open for themselves and for any of their potential loved ones who would want to migrate to Australia in the future. So let's take a look at the Latin American population changing their political posture in recent times. So during Trump's first and second term, and especially during his second term run for office, that is, the Latin American community in the US arrived at a crossroads. So there had been a very long-standing and reliable voting bloc for the left, that is, in America, that is the Democratic Party. So they watched as the left dismantled the economic strength of the US, denying its history, unraveling its society through identity politics. They rejected the transformation of the American left into the image of the dysfunctional societies that they'd left behind. And so what happened is, with this realization, they joined the Trump coalition. And what is the Trump coalition? It's basically a conglomeration of patriotic Americans of all ages, of all backgrounds, and all walks of life. So the shift in their thinking and their voting helped bring Trump to power, of course. Now bringing about the birth of a renewed, a rejuvenated America, which, of course, they're calling this the American comeback, rightfully so. Now, under Modi's right-leaning values and policies over in India, in the last 12 years, India has thrived and has made huge strides to lift millions out of poverty. They've invested heavily in housing, in infrastructure, in health, in education, technology, agriculture, and manufacturing, and much, much more. According to georank.org, India's GDP ranked sixth globally at $3.96 trillion. India became the fourth largest economy in 2025, now dropping to sixth in 2026 due to rising crude oil prices after the Iran war broke out. So the question remains, will Australia's population, and by extension the rest of the migrant population, continue to be Labour's faithful constituents, or will they reconsider their political leanings for the sake of saving a country racing towards a proverbial cliff on account of destructive left-leaning government policies? Now, what will remain of this country, or its society, or its economy if Labour continues to be at the helm for the foreseeable future? Are Australian migrants willing to forge an alliance with the reasonable, concerned, and frustrated everyday Australians who are hurting just as we are due to high taxation, high inflation, and tremendously high cost of living? Is it worth our while holding on to the one benefit of wide open doors, as in reliable immigration policies, while forsaking economic growth, resulting in more jobs, affordable living, and hopefully a more united society? Now, this is a question only you can answer. We've seen that the Latin Americans, joined by other minorities in America, answered that question for themselves in 2024 by voting Trump to power. Now, today, they are reaping the benefits of that choice. Now, that is all from me, folks. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your company. Please like, please share, please subscribe to my channel. Lastly, I would like to hear your thoughts on this issue or any other issue you'd like us to talk about. Until next time, it's bye for now. Bye-bye.